Dark matter is a term familiar to astronomers. It also applies to regulations. John Sanders, Senior Fellow in Regulatory Studies and Research Editor at the John Locke Foundation, wrote recently about the issue. And John, when we're talking about regulations, what do we mean by dark matter?
So regulatory dark matter refers to an agency's policy guides, their guidelines, sometimes memos or bulletins, or anything that they say this is how we interpret a rule,
All right,
but not the rule itself.
So there is the rule, which is formal and has words that supposedly people can understand. What you're talking about is something that goes beyond that rule.
Yes. So a rule has gone through the Administrative Procedures Act. It's gone through this elaborative process of being proposed, publicized, maybe criticized, and then finally adopted. And most of the time they're adopted. But they can be confusing, and so the agency can provide guidelines and FAQs or memos. Or here's how we interpret this rule. Sometimes, however, those can take the place of the actual rule. And so these things, which have not gone through the process of adoption as a rule, can take the place of a rule.
And in some cases, as you point out, it's possible that the guidance or the memo or what else is considered regulatory dark matter could contradict or gut the rule itself.
Yes, and as you say, in some cases, the way they decide to interpret it goes far beyond what the actual rule states, and that is where the problems lie, and can create problems for people who are being regulated by the agencies or companies, especially if there's disagreement or confusion.
Now, you point out in your John Locke Foundation research brief on this that at the federal level, this was something that the Trump administration tried to deal with. Now it seems the Biden administration has reversed course.
Yes, the Trump administration did a good job of trying to bring these things to light, because that's one of the other problems with regulatory dark matter, is that it's not transparent. These things are done in the shadows. They're not done through the rulemaking procedures, so they're kind of just dropped on people out of nowhere. So the Trump administration did a good job of identifying and calling out regulatory dark matter and bringing those into light. And the Biden administration, in their kind of get rid of everything Trump actions in the very early part of his administration, got rid of that as well.
This does not apply only to the federal government. It also applies to the state government. And you point out there is a particular bill that you like called House Bill 361. What does that deal with?
What House Bill 361 does is it changes the definition. It doesn't really change it. It makes an addition to the definition of a policy in state law regarding executive agencies, and says if any policy which it identifies as these bulletins, guidance documents, and memorandums, if any of those rises to the level of a rule, if they're being treated as a rule, then it's not enforceable until it's been adopted as an actual rule.
As a fan of regulatory reform, I'm guessing you like that course of action, that if something is going to be a rule, it needs to go through the process.
Yes, absolutely.
Is this the type of thing that would help with the regulatory reform efforts that we have seen in recent years? It would make things more understandable for people and businesses trying to deal with all of the red tape in state government?
I believe so. I mean, part of the problem, especially for small businesses, which make up over 99% of businesses in the state, is compliance. And when there is confusion about what's a rule and is this policy position a rule? Is your memorandum, are we supposed to follow that, or are we supposed to follow what's the actual text? That creates extra costs for those businesses.
You also point out that this can be a way for regulators to avoid this process that they should go through when they want to rule. They, instead of saying, let's take what we want to do in front of the rule procedure and get everything going through public comments and hearings and that sort of thing, we'll just make it up in the guidelines in this regulatory dark matter. That would have to be of concern.
That is one of my concerns, and some of that was going on at the federal level, especially. But yeah, I think most of the time it's more of a case of it's just easier. We think this is the way it should be interpreted, and it makes more sense to say it this way. But yes, when an agency has the ability to go outside the actual published rule and regulate differently, then it creates all kinds of nefarious possibilities.
The bill, once again, is House Bill 361, the John Locke Foundation research brief detailing its efforts along with the issue of dark regulatory matter overall is called Fight Regulatory Dark Matter by Defining Terms Properly. Its author is John Sanders, Senior Fellow in Regulatory Studies and Research Editor at the John Locke Foundation. Thanks so much, John.
Thanks, Mitch.